列車はウータン兵に占拠されている。速やかに排除し、列車を奪還せよ。
了解。
始めじゃねえ。
Crisis Core is one of the best games of PSP era and also was one of my favorite games when I played it for the first time. I used to play Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories, Medieval Resurrection and games like Gone before I met Crisis Core when it was an exclusive title for PSP. And you may imagine how shocked I was. An action JRPG like Final Fantasy on a portable console and in addition about the prior events of Final Fantasy VII? You can just easily imagine how magical that was back in the day and how much I was addicted to it. Starting with Crisis Core, Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions and then VII Final Fantasy, probably the reason of analog part breaking faster than its shelf life. After 15 years, Crisis Core is back for all new-gen platforms from PlayStation, Xbox, Steam to even Nintendo Switch, and there is no need to skip this game due to being PSP exclusive title or playing on the magical world of emulation. It's a decent upgrade to its original version, the visuals are upgraded and made more even charming and even better, the combat is way smoother, actually feeling like more action JRPG this time. It's just the correct way of remastering a retro game and upgrading its mechanics. When I receive this kind of remaster games, I tend to get greedy and desire even more, and I'll soon talk about what Crisis Core Reunion lacks either. I'm Arcade Naut here, and today, without giving any spoilers to its story, I'll be talking about Crisis Core Reunion and take you to the roots of Final Fantasy VII universe, namely the origin story of Sephiroth, how Shinra rose to power, or how Cloud found the Buster Sword if you played the original Final Fantasy VII or the remake.
毎日聞かされれば嫌でも覚える。
ヘラヘラして剣を振るなよ。
どっちが。
First things first, as being a prior story to Final Fantasy VII, you will end up spoiling some stuff for your Final Fantasy VII run or even for Final Fantasy VII Remake. However, as you might know, the remake took things into a different route, so to say. Meaning that Remake is a Final Fantasy VII but being told in a different way, like a rewritten story, right? That also means that you basically do not spoil anything for your Final Fantasy VII Remake journey, basically, but Crisis Core Reunion might help you to understand how Cloud has the Buster Sword, or why Sephiroth is being a threat to the world, or even how soldiers are basically created. Crisis Core would help you to understand these events through the eyes of a young soldier called Zack Fair, who is also being seen by the ending scenes of Final Fantasy VII Remake and also again by its DLC. If you ever felt interested towards those events, you don't need to hesitate, just go and give Crisis Core a chance. Then let's dig deeper into the Zack story and into the story of Crisis Core Reunion. It's several years before the bombing mission of Final Fantasy VII, and Crisis Core starts just like the original work. Zack, as being the soldier second class, hops on a train to stop VII soldiers that are trying to infiltrate Midgar. Zack is young, full of enthusiasm, and wants to be a hero and a soldier first class just like Sephiroth. During those times, Sephiroth is basically like a rock star. He's a first class soldier and a hero of VII War, influencing countless of young men into becoming a soldier, literally promoting Shinra's influence around the globe. And Zack is also one of them. Alongside with his brother-like mentor Angel, Zack also participates in VII War, takes various missions from Shinra, getting stronger and better by each day. However, their journey becomes darker with another soldier first class called Genesis becoming a fugitive. As being a childhood friend of Angel, Genesis plays a vital role throughout Crisis Core Reunion and also as a character development for Zack and also for Sephiroth, as Angel and Genesis are only friends that he has. Zack starts as a hyped fleshling with high potential but gets roped in Shinra's secrets, starting to question his duty, his place in world, and finally affected by both Angel's code of honor and his precious Cloud's strife. He sees himself in Cloud like that very same young version of Zack that wants to be a hero, and this time Zack was Angel to Cloud what Angel was to him. Just like Batman and Robin, so to say. And as you might know, Batman is willing to do everything for the Robins. If I were to go back to the story, during the VII War, as Zack and Sephiroth trying to protect Soldier Director Lazard, they discovered that an unknown force has the same face as Genesis. Quickly after learning that, Angel also disappears, forcing Zack to undertake these secret missions alone. From that point, Zack must find Genesis, capture him, and if it's necessary, Angel must be caught alongside either. From that point, Zack must also rise above the ranks of soldier, working alongside with Shinra operatives and Sephiroth himself to solve this case, and must discover the means of being a soldier. Crisis Core Reunion is just not a typical JRPG experience where you level up and defeat a godlike entity at the end. It's about dreams, friendship, the meaning and purpose of one's life, family, betrayal, sacrifice, and last but not least, freedom. And all of these feelings are adorned with beautifully composed soundtracks that can stuck with you for years to come. However, on the other hand, it's probably one of the shortest Final Fantasy experiences that you can play, since the whole story progress can take about like 10 to 15 hours in between if you just focus on story content. My whole run with 40% missions completed took around 16 hours, but I was over leveled with missions content and nearly one hit every monster and nearly every boss until late chapter 8. After 40% of the missions, my patience grew thin and just went to finish the story to see if anything is different from the PSP version. And there is not. The story, the level design and the bosses are the same with the PSP version. The visuals of the characters, monsters and animations are upgraded and the combat is more fluid now, but the rest is the same. This might probably sound as being faithful to the original version, however you can also see this as being lazy, since the level design, even the CGI from 2007 stays the same within Crisis Core Reunion. They literally ignored doing the awesome charming CGI scenes from scratch again, which is a potential waste and a bit unfortunate in my opinion. The combat of Crisis Core Reunion kinda feels like the very first Kingdom Hearts. Zack can dodge anytime, do physical skills or cast magic from equipped materia crystals he has. He can attack with a sword and the feeling is way better than the original version. It just doesn't feel like a turn-based at all, rather a bit closer to the Final Fantasy VII Remake combat. However, there is one unique mechanic called DMW within Crisis Core. This digital mind wave mechanic is basically like a slot machine. While you fight with anyone, these slots will move both in correlation with the numbers and the characters it shows, and it lets Zack to do super flashy and effective moves. Like if 3 angels are lined up, Zack can punch multiple enemies, and if Sephiroth appears, he literally does like an octo slash. Aeris fully heals Zack and lets him to exceed his maximum health and so on. There are 18 different DMWs in total, 7 characters and 11 summons, and while characters unlock by story progression, the summons are obtainable throughout the missions. The very same missions that are bland, repetitive and take ages to fully complete, 300 of them. Yeah, you probably didn't misheard me. There are 300 of these defeat the target and move on to the next mission kind of missions, and starting from the first star difficulty, they can go up to level 10, and just imagine the grind or the amount of frustration you will experience. And guess what? I nearly did 150 of them, leveled up Zack to nearly 38 level, and the last boss fight was a breeze. You can just finish the game without even touching these missions, but I would at least advise you to do summon materia missions that would help you to access to Ifrit, Odin and Bahamut, and the other summons that would appear on your DMW while you fight. And one another weird thing about Crisis Core is that you literally don't have an experience point need to level up. I mean, of course you need to kill monsters to level up, but it's not like Final Fantasy VII Remake or other JRPGs. The game does not show the remaining XP that you need to have before leveling up. Either you just level up by doing some of these missions, killing monsters, or that the MW numbers have to be 777 for you to level up. My guess is that SP points above DMW would indicate your experience points or something, but yeah, that's a bit weird, so don't worry about being underleveled. If you feel weak and have some difficulties, just do some missions, then you would be fine. The same CGIs from PSP era and the same bland repetitive missions are the only 2 flaws of Crisis Core, I would say. At least the number of missions can be cut into half and make the remaining more meaningful, fun and challenging, rather than keeping them repetitive from 15 years ago. Don't get me wrong, Crisis Core Reunion is still a decent upgrade to its PSP version, though I would still want some upgrades to level design, CGI and these missions, just like they did by combat and overall visuals to the characters. It's not just HD remastered that they did for Final Fantasy VIII, but rather like a remodeling for each character for their face and animations. But all things aside, if you played the original Final Fantasy VII or even the remake, you would find lots of references that would make more sense for the story, or the elements that would at least help you to learn more about their backstory. Like you can learn more about Cid's airship within Shinra building and how he made his airship high wind, or just me personally, why I don't see Sephiroth as a villain in general, but rather like an anti-hero with chaotic alignment, so to say. We as the players see the human side of Sephiroth, seeing him love, fight together with his friends, and how much he actually cares about them, which the original Final Fantasy VII or the remake kinda lacks, and shows Sephiroth as a legendary soldier only, not his origins. And maybe that's why we might also need like a game about Sephiroth and his younger days in Shinra. Maybe one day. Maybe.
承認魔航路1号機使用許可
In the end, Crisis Core Reunion is a must-play if you're a Final Fantasy fan, or more specifically, if you enjoyed the original Final Fantasy VII or the remake, it would probably help you to understand the ending of Final Fantasy Remake or its DLC intermission and how this new remake is actually like an alternative reboot after all. Although it might also seem like it can spoil a bit of plot twist for you, I do believe it can also help you to understand the route that Square Enix took with the remake trilogy, so it depends on how much you wish to learn about Remake's future after all. But if you don't care about the things above, just give Crisis Core Reunion a chance, as it might help you to love Final Fantasy series due to its combat, story, music and Zek's character, as being one of the best characters that is written for Final Fantasy series. Crisis Core Reunion deserves a chance.
Cloud, 俺田舎に帰ってきた。ここゴンガガだ。